everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of NewsMaker Live with me, Kendal, Burton. Our final show for this year, by the way. And joining us this evening is the political leader of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Alan Chastanet. I want to thank you very much for making time to be with us. I know it's been a long, busy day for you, so really appreciate you taking the time.
Great
Welcome
to be here.
To NewsMaker Live.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Let's jump right in. You've been elected as political leader of the United Workers' Party, the main opposition party on the island. What are some of the changes that you've brought to the party since your election?
Wow, pretty significant. We looked at the entire structure of the party. So, I mean, if you go back a little bit in the history of the party, I feel in many ways that the party needed change from 1997. And then when you look at the passing of events, the dramatic loss in the 97 election, a leadership struggle in 97, and then leading up to the alliance, and then the collapse of the alliance, and then another dismal loss, and then another power struggle within the party for leadership. Literally, Sir John emerging very late, winning, and then dying 9 months in office, and then the turmoil that existed afterwards. The party was never really paid attention to, the party structure. So we really had entered into the new century, really with a very old machine. And that one that served the party extremely well, because when you see what the party was able to achieve from 1981, or even if you go back to Sir John in 1964, all the way up until 1997, it's pretty significant. I mean, all the meaningful development projects. So what we wanted to do was really relook at the structure of the party. And one of the first things we did is we went on a retreat to be able to develop a mission, a vision, and values for the party. So I'm very happy to say that was completed and in fact was adopted by the council. In addition to that, we've now put in a policy committee. So we have about 12 people from a variety of parts of society, social and economical, who are sitting and helping guide the party with regards to its overall policy. We've also appointed a disciplinary committee. And we've now just appointed an advisory subcommittee, which reports directly to the executive, which is to assist the party in selecting candidates. So basically, in our constitution, the constituency branches select candidates. That candidate selected needs to be approved by the political leader, who then brings it to the National Council. So that the idea here would be to make sure we have a common standard among our candidates and establish a very clear criteria. So the advisory committee's role is not to supersede or interfere with what the constituency branches have to do, but to support them. And certainly as the political leader, that when a recommendation comes, I know that there's a level of due diligence that has been done, and I also know that there was a same standard that was being applied in the process. The next step for the party is to, we've opened up a headquarters office. We've now put in place a communications manager. We're about to hire a research manager. So we've changed our entire communications methodology. And we now have put in a new database in terms of modernizing from that perspective. And also what we're doing is now looking at the structure of our constituency branches. So our constitution calls for really two levels in our constituencies. One is what we call the core constituency branch, and then we say the constituency group. So in each of the polling divisions, you have a miniature or smaller version of your core constituency branch. And then we've now resurrected the women's group, we've resurrected the youth group. So all those things have now transpired. So the first quarter is going to be focused heavily on that restructuring. Because we have constituency elections coming up at the end of the first quarter of next year. So we want to make sure that we have proper job descriptions in place for all of our positions. And also, where there is need for stronger personnel in the constituency branches, so there's a clear criteria for people who are being elected in certain positions. So, for instance, we have a position that's called a PRO. And there's questions as to whether you really need a PRO in a constituency branch, or whether you really need an electoral officer, or a research officer. The other thing that we're doing is we're going to be opening up an academy for the party to train campaign managers, to train canvassers, to train agents during the election, so that anybody who wants to be in any one of those positions, they have to first have a certificate to be able to do so. So I think that, those are some of the core things that we're doing. Now, on a policy side of it, what we've been doing is going around meeting with economic agencies such as the Chamber of Commerce, the Manufacturing Association, the Tourism Association. We've met with unions, and we're also going to meet with some members of civil society. And basically what we're trying to do is get ideas from them in terms of what the critical issues pertaining to them are, and to write a manifesto for the party. That not a public manifesto, but one that's a blueprint for us in terms of a way forward. Then the idea would be is once that's written is now to then bring this down to our constituency level. So what we're trying to ensure to the members of our party is that they have a direct participation in the party. So, Sir John was an iconic figure, and many people would tell you that he was very much of a benevolent dictator, if there was such a thing. And I don't think that moving forward that can work anymore. I think that the party needs to be more participatory, and I think that the membership needs to hold the executive very much accountable. And I think that the standards that we set for our party need to be higher than even the one in our Constitution. And we have to ensure that there is transparency. We have to ensure that we follow the rule of law. And then there are some very core values that we've chosen. So honesty, teamwork, confidentiality, efficiency are some of the core words that we've chosen. I mean, and I want to say that we've taken this very seriously. So, for instance, when we talked about what was the word? It was loyalty was a word that had been proposed. And I think some of us really felt, for instance, I don't want people to be loyal. Because sometimes loyalty means you have to set aside what you really believe in order to be loyal to the party. Or if the party does something wrong, the loyalty has to supersede that. And I think that that's where we're talking about efficiency, honesty. Those kinds of values are much more important to us, and that we have to be a party in which we need to challenge each other. And look, the issues confronting us are tremendous. First of all, trying to be a small independent country is difficult enough as it is. And then when you put it now with what's taken place in the world and how the world has changed since 2009, it makes it that much more difficult. And it means, to me, there needs to be substantially more collaboration, understanding, and discussion so that we can move forward in a more meaningful way.
As opposed to the blind loyalty.
As opposed to blind loyalty.
Now, you mentioned 1997, your defeat, or the party's defeat at the polls. One of the reasons given for that defeat, apart from all the economic and other issues that conspired, was the disorganization of the UWP as opposed to the well-oiled machine that was the St. Lucia Labour Party. And you've catalogued very well some of the infighting and division that's existed within the United Workers' Party since then. Even at the convention at which you were elected, your guest speaker pointed to it again, the need for consolidation, coming together. Your announcement of your interest in the leadership gave away what some saw as the division in the party, made it very evident. What have you done to resolve and to heal those wounds?
Well, I would like to say that there are some wounds that you can heal. And, a bruised ego or being disappointed is something that, people themselves have to get over. Because if you believe in the process of consensus, and, that's what we want to be, is a party of consensus, is that, that's not about being loyal, it's about putting your points on the table, and that once the party votes to go in a different direction, we all need to support that particular direction. I thought that we did a remarkable job of not allowing the party to go further downhill. And I think the way that we did it, and that's why we chose to campaign as a team as opposed to campaign individually. And that we had a group of people who are like-minded people who believed that it would take a group of us to really change the direction of United Workers' Party. And when you look at the results of the vote, where almost 80% of the support supported that concept. And even since then, I mean, we've had executive meeting after executive meeting with quorums, starting on time. And we've never skipped a beat. And whether I'm out or Steve is out or Ezekiel is out or anybody else is out, the meetings are continuing. So it means that the talent of the United Workers' Party is starting to grow. And we're seeing people who have not been members of the party or have not been active in the party for a very long time have been returning. Likewise, there are a few people who are not coming. So, look, there's a trade-off in life, and I feel that we've come out of this thing very, very well. Democracy is never an easy thing. It's always a great thing to aspire for, but people don't really like it when it is. But I'm very proud of our party that we were able to go through that process. And I think that when you look at what the party's been able to achieve since the convention, you know, it's pretty remarkable.
You talk about the importance of a team effort. Let's talk about your team. Your team has borne some heavy criticism. You've been accused of surrounding yourself with a bunch of losers. You've been accused of being a loser yourself. Names like Ezekiel Joseph, Leonard Montoot, Alan Chastanet, not been successful in your bid for your respective constituencies. How do you respond to that criticism?
Look, I mean, when you go back and you analyze why we lost, which we have done, right, I don't think it came down to any individual person. I think there was a series of things that happened during our tenure.
Such as?
Look, I think that it was very clear. People thought that we were a very divided party. There are people who use the word weak leadership. And then there were personalities in our party that became larger than the party itself. So, you know, I'm not a person to really dwell on the past, and that's what I said during our convention. You know, we've made mistakes in the past. We've recognized what those mistakes are. The group of us have come together and addressed those issues. So how are we going to build a team? So you build a team by putting structures in place. You have your meetings. They're well documented. You show what the process to making a decision is. You make sure that when you are having discussions that they're well researched and well thought out. You present yourself into the public's eyes totally differently, and then you start holding to the ideals that you've presented. I mean, so we'll be tested as time goes by. Do we truly believe in those values, right? When people breach those values, that this party will go through the process of either reprimanding them or suspending them or kicking them out of the party, you know, and that applies to anybody, including the leader. So I would say to you that there were circumstances that were beyond anybody, and that we lacked a national campaign. We campaigned on the success of the party on an individual basis. We campaigned in a constituency basis, and when you got down to the last 2 weeks of the election, the need for a national campaign was glaring. So I don't think it's a fair elections to say that anybody is a loser. And then when you look at the amounts that Ezekiel lost by, and some people will still tell you today that Ezekiel did not lose, because on the original count he'd won by 68 votes. Likewise with Spider. But the fact is, it ended up where it was, which again was a weakness in the party. I mean, you have to admire and you have to respect the Labour Party. They were very strong on the day of the election, and the period post-election, the 48 hours post-election, the recounting of votes in tight seats, you know, they were hungrier, and they were better organized. And I think it's something that we need to recognize, and we have recognized as a party, and we're now stepping up to the plate to make sure that the UWP would never be embarrassed to that extent again.
So in all, bearing in mind all that you've just said, is the United Workers' Party prepared to return to office?
We are preparing ourselves to return to office. I think that we've come a very long ways in a short period of time, but there is still a lot of work to be done. And I'm very excited about it, and I'm very happy with the results that we've seen so far.
Okay. We're due for a break. Let's take that break. We're talking with the political leader of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Alan Chastanet. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the developments in the United Workers' Party and some of the issues affecting St. Lucia, and get your reaction to them and how the current government has handled them. We'll be right back.